In the final spring of the Boshin War, the seas off the northern edge of Japan bore witness to a thunderous reckoning. It was May of 1869, and the waters of Hakodate Bay, once calm and cold, now rippled with the ironclad thunder of steam-powered warships and the furious crack of cannon fire. At stake was the soul of a nation, a Japan torn between its fading samurai past and its rising imperial future. This was the naval battle of Hakodate, a climactic episode in the bloody conclusion to the Tokugawa shogunate's centuries-long rule. While the great cities of Kyoto and Edo had already fallen to the forces of the new Meiji government, one final bastion of resistance remained. The short-lived and desperate Republic of Ezo, declared in the remote and rugged lands of Hokkaido. It was here that the last remnants of the shogunate's navy made their stand, rallying around a handful of surviving ships and one last dream of autonomy. The Ezo Republic, formed by loyalists of the fallen shogunate, had turned its gaze to the seas. With no secure foothold left on the main islands, their fate would now hinge upon the power of their fleet. 8 steam-powered vessels once formed the core of their navy: the Kaiten, Banryu, Chiyoda, Choge, Kayomaru, Kanrin-maru, Mikaho, and Shinsoku. But by the spring of 1869, fate had already claimed several of these. In a disastrous earlier engagement off Hisashi, the Kayomaru and Shinsoku had been lost to the deep. The Kanrin-maru, caught in a storm and crippled by weather damage, was captured by imperial forces. What remained was a ghost fleet, courageous but vastly diminished, clinging to their last stronghold at Hakodate. Against them stood the fledgling Imperial Japanese Navy. Hastily assembled from the naval assets of the victorious domains of Satsuma, Choshu, and Saga, the Imperial fleet was a patchwork of borrowed strength. Its cohesion was uncertain, its training rushed, but it had one devastating advantage: the kotetsu. Once destined for the shogunate and built in America as the CSS Stonewall, the ironclad kotetsu had been withheld during the war under foreign neutrality policies. It was only after the Tokugawa regime had fallen that the ship was finally delivered, ironically, to their enemies. By April 1868, this formidable warship had become the crown jewel of the Meiji Navy. Its presence would prove decisive. By early May, the Imperial fleet, centered around the kotetsu, and supported by ships like the Kasuga, Hiryu, Teibo No. 1, Yoshun, and Moshin, had reached Hokkaido. They were accompanied by 2 American chartered transport vessels, hired to carry troops for the final assault. Their goal was clear: destroy the rebel fleet, take Hakodate, and extinguish the last embers of the shogunate. The battle began on May 4th, 1869. Almost immediately, the Ezo forces suffered a blow. The steamship Chiyoda, grounded and abandoned, was quickly seized by Imperial sailors. It was a symbolic and strategic loss, stripping the Republic of one of its remaining steamships. But the Ezo mariners, hardened and desperate, fought back fiercely. The Kaiten, a large and once proud vessel, took heavy fire on May 7th. Struck by relentless bombardment, she was soon rendered helpless. Drifting and broken, her decks shattered, her guns silenced. Her loss sent ripples of despair through the Ezo ranks, who knew they could not afford even a single defeat. Yet, even in retreat, the defenders struck back. The Banryu, sleek and nimble, found herself nose-to-nose with the Imperial warship Choyo. With precision and daring, she opened fire, landing a critical hit that sent the Choyo to the seafloor. The explosion reverberated across the bay, proof that the old warriors still had teeth. But Banryu herself had taken fatal damage in the exchange. Listing and battered, she too succumbed to the sea soon after. The momentum now belonged unmistakably to the Imperial fleet. Day after day, they pounded the Ezo positions, both afloat and ashore. They supported ground troop deployments, bombarded fortifications, and pressed their advantage without pause. The once proud navy of the Tokugawa shogunate, reconstituted in exile, now lay in ruin. By May 10th, the battle was over. 3 of the Azo Republic's ships were captured. 2 more had been sunk. Only fragments of the fleet remained, scattered and fleeing. The sea was no longer theirs. And with that, the dream of the Azo Republic began to collapse. By the end of June 1869, the last holdouts of the Republic surrendered. Hokkaido fell to imperial control, and the final chapter of the Boshin War was written in the blood of men who refused to surrender a vanished past. The defeat at sea sealed the fate of those samurai loyalists. The Tokugawa shogunate, which had ruled Japan for over 2 centuries, now lay buried beneath the tide of history. The naval battle of Hakodate was more than a military encounter. It was the final clash between old and new Japan, between swords and steam, honor and pragmatism, isolation and industrialization. It was the roar of a world fading and the birth cry of a nation rushing into modernity. On those dark waters of northern Japan, beneath the shadows of cannon smoke and falling banners, the Meiji era was truly born.